Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Aussie Starcraft. We're continuing to bring you some great games from Dreamhack Winter that took place recently. Hope everyone's enjoying their Christmas holidays. We're of course enjoying them by producing some great Starcraft 2 content for you to watch. This game is another deciding game in a best of 3 matchup. This time, as you can see from the Dreamhack overlay down the bottom, it is Patience versus MMA. MMA, our blue Terran in the bottom right hand corner, playing for Team Acer. The top left hand corner is Patience, our red Protoss player, playing for Team Azubu. Now, a lot of players may not be aware very much of Patience. He's been a relative sort of unknown before Dreamhack Winter, but it's actually performed extremely well in this tournament. He beat a lot of good players to actually qualify for Dreamhack Winter, and coming into the tournament was actually placed in Group A against a lot of very difficult opponents, players like Naniwa, Hyun, Lucifron, and TLO. So in an extremely difficult group, he's performed extraordinarily well. Actually came out ahead of his bracket. He only lost to TLO, managed to beat Naniwa, Hyun, and Lucifron. So actually came out ahead in the group stages and landed himself against MMA in this deciding game in the winners group stages. So Patience performing very well in this tournament, and certainly surprising a lot of people, but dazzling them with his fantastic Protoss skills. So looking forward to seeing a lot of Patience in the future. For those of you that haven't caught his game, make sure you go back through the channel and other places, try and catch some of his games, particularly if you play Protoss. You'll find his play style quite good, and certainly some of the strategies he's used to beat players like Naniwa certainly have set him aside in a league of his own. So looking forward to some great things from Patience in this tournament and in future tournaments. Looks like a fairly standard opening here, going for his Cybercore now. 3 workers in gas, grabbing that crucial Vespene. Protoss players needing quite a bit of it, particularly to try and overcome the early Marine Marauder aggression. MMA going for a fairly gasless opening here. You can see him throwing down his command center on the low ground quite quickly, and following that up with a pair of barracks. So quite a greedy opening from MMA. Command center into double barracks. MMA's always been a fan of the early sort of combat shieldless Marine push. Generally pushes out quite a few Marines early on, goes fairly gasless and tries to put a lot of pressure, particularly on his Protoss opponents. And often that pressure gives him a great leg up in the middle and late game. So we'll see how that goes here. Patience electing to grab his mothership core as well as his own Nexus here at his natural. And we have MMA scouting around there. That scout, if he's not careful, is going to be picked off by the mothership core. But we have Patience moving out now with his own probe, trying to get a bit of a scout off for MMA. MMA unfortunately allowing that probe pass. Probe's going to get a great idea of what's going on. It's going to spot all 3 of his barracks. You saw Patience there clicking on all the barracks, making sure that was indeed what they are. He can see that this is a gasless opening. That is quite important for him. You may wonder why, but going no gas means that you've got no upgrades, means no reactors or tech labs early on, and it means that things like Stimpack, which take 3 minutes to complete researching, are a substantial way away. So MMA, as you can see, throwing down both his gas as soon as he's got rid of that probe, trying to mess with Patience timing, because Patience will be thinking in his head right now is no gas, right? I have the time it takes to mine, I have the time it takes to build the tech lab, and then the time it takes for Stimpack. So Patience probably thinking to himself that the things like Stimpack and combat shields are at least 5 minutes away. MMA deciding, right, if I throw down 2 reactors, which is more than a Terran player would usually go for early in the game, I might actually be able to surprise Patience with some sort of timing on these Marines. But Patience here, Micro and Stalker like a boss, forced all these shieldless Marines back towards MMA's base. MMA starting to get a few more Marines out. They're going to get some damage on that Stalker, but Patience absolutely relentless. Almost picked off another Marine there. We have 4 Marines that are down to red and orange health. And here's what a lot of Protoss players are trying to do. Rather than keep these Stalkers back at their own base, where they only get 1 or 2 shots before these Marines and Marauders sweep through, he's positioning them right up aggressively, right in front of MMA's base. So as soon as these Marines move out, MMA knows he's going to take a lot of damage from these Stalkers. They're going to kite all the way back to the base, and by the time MMA can get these stimless Marines across the map, Patience is going to have been able to pick off quite a few of them. So Patience probably actually living up to his name there and just using that steady picking away approach to try and wear down the Marines as much as possible. Unfortunately, those Marines managing to get forward close enough that they could engage and take out the Stalker before it could fall back. So nice little payback there from MMA. Scan going down the main base. So you can see the robotics bay going up now. So Colossus is certainly a potential, but the Twilight Council also on the way there is going to create a little bit of a problem for MMA. Not going to know how much Patience is using this and whether or not he's transitioning to some sort of Templar tech behind it. So more gateways finally going down now. So as you can see, players like Patience are deciding to get very aggressive with those early couple of Stalkers, and that aggression allows him to avoid building these gateways until much later on. So the very low on production facilities, only a robotics facility and a barracks for the first 8 minutes of the map, but Patience being very active with those first couple of units, so just to ensure that he can get all the buildings and tech he wants quite quickly. So 8 minutes we already have the robotics bay on the way and first Colossus in play. That's a very fast Colossus. You tend not to see them for a couple of extra minutes. No extended thermal lance just yet, but I imagine we'll see that shortly once the 200 gas has made its appearance. But we have a nice web of observers here from Patience. I really like this out of Patience. 3 observers at least, and a pylon means that he has an almost and a second pylon down here means that MMA really can't get a good line of vision on Patience. Can't get a good medevac run on Patience base. So Patience has been consistently very good with placing these pylons and observers around the map, and has just done a great job of ensuring that any early medevac play out of MMA can be spotted a long way out. So really like the use of observers, certainly a few more than you see a lot of Protoss players getting early in the game. Second Colossus now on the field, as well as some Dark Templar morphing in here. So these Dark Templar could actually find their way into MMA's expansion and find it quite vulnerable. So looks like MMA feels safe in the fact that he knows it's Colossus on the field. In fact, Patience intentionally showing this Colossus as much as possible, showing MMA that it's here and it's here to try and stave off those early medevac drops. You can see Patience in a great position already. 2 Colossus here. When these medevacs unload, he will be in trouble. Oh, scan going out. MMA managing to catch those Dark Templar. No detection there, just managing to see the blur on the map and use a scan to pick it up. But one Dark Templar has made his way inside. Now, actually surprised to not see Patience going for the economy at all, actually favouring the Marines and Marauders. So he's actually allowed MMA to build this missile turret, which is a little unfortunate. This Dark Templar could have had free run for another 5 or 6 seconds in that main base if it delayed the missile turret. So there was no energy for scan on the 3 orbital commands, and he could have gotten perhaps a little bit more done there than he had otherwise. But otherwise, great play out of Patience, and MMA here continuing to put a lot of pressure on. We have a consistent production line here out of MMA. We have 2 Marauders, 3 Marines, and a lot of upgrades on the way. Second engineering bay and an armory on the way, as well as first infantry armor upgrade. So MMA fatting out his production, making sure he can grab 2 simultaneously, and just dealing with a momentary supply block there. So MMA now streaming out with a fairly large group of Marine and Marauders. Supply though for our 2 players is very even. Patience here swinging back up into his main base, trying to ensure that there's no medevac drop able to swoop in here. And now that he knows he's clear, he's bringing his force down his front door where he can hopefully stave off this ever-increasing swarm of Terran bio units. Looks like MMA trying to decide if he'll engage here. This is a lot of Colossi here to try and deal with almost straight Marines. These Marines could go down quite quickly. I think MMA is just posturing here, wanting to buy a little bit of time. He currently has no Vikings in the air. It certainly doesn't want to engage that Colossus force without Vikings. So just trying to posture very aggressively while he builds some stalkers, while he builds some Vikings, sorry. 2 Vikings on the way, as well as another starport, so MMA is going to be able to produce 4 Vikings at a time. Wants to be sure to get about 8 or 10 Vikings so he can one-shot these Colossus. Doesn't want to get too many though. If you overbalance on Vikings, your Protoss player tends to do what Patience is doing now, which is to throw down a Templar Archives, get a few High Templar and transition to Storm, and all of a sudden you end up with all these Vikings that aren't doing anything because they shoot 2 Colossi and then spend the rest of the engagement doing almost nothing. So Patience here probably aware of the fact that MMA is trying to stall him out, starting to move out with this force, wants to engage before MMA can do too much damage. We have a Dark Templar actually holding this watchtower. I'm curious to see if MMA notice that. As you can see, the watchtowers when they're taken are in this form, and they sort of collapse when they're not being taken. So if you're observant enough, you probably could tell that there was actually a cloaked unit sitting there on the tower. But it looks like MMA's got more important fish to fry, as he uses these Vikings to try and get some sort of idea for what's in Patient's main base. Actually going to scan there to pick off the observer, trying to really open this lane of attack for medevacs, but you can see Patience shutting that down with some photon cannons in both bases, just to make sure he's not vulnerable to drops while he's pushing forward. Having a Immortal here in the middle of the map, actually getting picked off by some Marines, which is unfortunate for the poor Immortal, meeting an early demise. Dark Templar unfortunately has drawn a bit of attention to himself. He's swung out and killed a few Marines and then got scanned and picked off. This Protoss force, however, is going to pick up the other watchtower and secure that half of the map, which is probably providential, as Patience thrown down his 4th base in this location. A watchtower will give him a large warning as to when this sizable Terran force moves out. We do have 3 Vikings on the way at a time now, and so this Viking count will substantially increase. 6 in play at the moment, 3 more on the way will take us to 9. That's virtually where you want to be with those Vikings. Don't want too many or too few. It's always the delicate balance as you sort of kite back and forward between things like Vikings and Ghosts. MMA, quite a substantial number of Ghosts, and these will melt through the Zealots, doing massive damage there, and most of those Zealots unfortunately getting picked off. But Patience's army actually managing to get cut in half there by MMA. And this scouting factory going to be spotting this Protoss army moving out across, trying to retreat across the middle of the map. So you see his MMA almost maxed out now. He's got his 11 Vikings on the field, plenty of Marines and Marauders, and also a sizable number of Ghosts. So things like these observers for Patience are going to be very useful. Going to want to keep those, ensure that he always has one of those with his army. Certainly doesn't want those Ghosts to sneak in and EMP. We'll see how Patience winning spree holds up against MMA. MMA is one of the great Terran players of our day. Is certainly very successful, having secured himself more than a few tournament wins over the years. And as you can see here, he's even pulled his SCVs to buffer a few extra shots. See MMA here is picking off all those High Templars. It's a massive loss for Patience, down to 180 supply, and most of his army is actually being EMP. See MMA here sacrificing a few Ghosts to EMP the remainder of the force. Swinging here is massive Viking hammer, the shieldless Colossi taking so much damage. You see MMA just relentlessly pushing forward with these Vikings. He doesn't care now if they tank the damage from the storm. All he wants to do is kill those Colossus. That's going to allow his Marines and Marauders to spool straight up this ramp. Gateway units being warped in here, but there's no storm left to do any damage here. Well, two storms from the High Templar do a lot of damage, but MMA's relentless, consistent reinforcers streaming across the map, and Patience going to be forced to GG out of the game. So what a phenomenal game between those two players. It's just unfortunately for Patience, just MMA's experience there, allowing him to sneak those Ghosts just around the observer's arc. You saw them playing around in this couple of inches of gameplay area here, streaked through that part of the map and just laid down a bevy of EMP pulses across the Colossi and forces. That allowed MMA to just surge forward with those Vikings, ensured that he killed the Colossi, the Ghost having already dealt with the High Templar, and those plain gateway units just unable to deal with maxed out Marines and Marauders. Funny that MMA chose to engage even before the 3-3 was finished, but the positioning obviously he felt was just too good. Knew he could sneak in through that gap there and just exploited the weaknesses in Patience defense. So great play out of both these players. Unfortunately for Patience, that will knock him down into the losers bracket, but I think we'll see a bit more of him yet in this tournament. MMA going to progress to play another day. Hope you guys have all enjoyed this cast. We will be moving on to cast the finals now, and we'll be uploading those progressively over the coming days. If you do have any requests for other games that we haven't cast, by all means, either put a comment down below or send the request through to aussiestarcraftreplays at gmail.com. Thanks guys for tuning in. Look forward to any of your comments down below. By all means, go ahead and share our videos on Facebook and Twitter and other social media sites. We're happy to have as many viewers as you can shoo through the door. So appreciate you guys taking the time to do that, and we'll catch you all in the next cast.